Home Affairs Minister Dr. Motsoaledi has paid an oversight visit to the Maseru border post. He expanded on the role of the newly established Border Management Authority. Let's touch base with our reporter Tumaole Mohlaoli, who's at the Maseru Bridge port of entry. Tommy, great to speak to you. Very good afternoon. Any key findings from the minister's visit today?
Well, no real key findings except an ironing out of bilateral relations, if one can put it that way. Both Minister Motsoaledi and his Mosotho counterpart were cordial, although acknowledged that in recent times there have been strained relations and very unfortunate statements made, particularly in the Lesotho parliament itself by politicians who have been saying that they feel hard done by their interpretation of what South Africa's formalizing of the permit regulations here in South Africa for Basotho nationals coming in. Dr. Motsoaledi is saying that this is just a misunderstanding between neighbors, and saying that Lesotho is actually in the heart of South Africa, surrounded on all sides by South Africa, and that these relations will continue, and that these spats that are raging because of specifically the immigration and how immigration is treated and handled with the permits is something that is neighborly. He said that, of course, the binational commission, which is due to be held later this year, will see an ironing out of these issues. Now, with the issue of the border patrollers, he says that the agency that has been set up is going to be housed within, of course, the Home Affairs Department, but is independent of other law enforcement agencies, although it will work hand in glove with them. Let's hear what the minister had to say about that.
But the last time I came here, we didn't have border guards. So it shows that they are in action, because you'll be aware that we deployed them on the 14th of July. Yes, and now I'm quite impressed that it means they are doing their work. But at any rate, we already know from the reports up there that they've made a big difference. That's why in April this year, we're increasing them by 200% actually, because Treasury has agreed with us in that regard.
Well, of course, the border patrollers that the Minister Motsoaledi was referring to are also deployed in other border posts, troublesome border posts. This will be, of course, the poorest border post, including with Zimbabwe. And there were some questions about whether the launch of these border patrollers is something of putting maybe the cart before the horse, because there still has to be some ironing out of jurisdiction when it comes, of course, to Lesotho law enforcement agencies. But what Minister Motsoaledi of Home Affairs of South Africa has said is that indeed, when it comes to jurisdiction, every country is, of course, sovereign, and its borders will be respected. It doesn't mean that these border patrollers will go willy-nilly into Lesotho territory without, of course, consulting first with the authorities there, and there will be joint operations, but it does not mean that they have jurisdiction to act and enforce and arrest and other key law enforcement activities within Basotho territory and vice versa. So certainly all eyes will be on the binational commission to find out exactly how these issues will be ironed out. And the issue of the permits is also quite important, because there's been a lot of confusion and a lot of misunderstanding, something that both, of course, ministers tried, and were at pains to stress that it does not mean that the free flow and free movement of Basotho nationals into South Africa and vice versa will be curtailed. It just means it will be something that will be formalized from the South African side, something that the minister and, of course, many nationals in South Africa feel is long overdue. But, of course, the cordial relations both sides say will continue, and, of course, the trade, with South Africa being the biggest trade partner of Lesotho.
Do we understand the other roles of the Border Management Authority, Tommy, outside certainly of those personnel that are manning the length and breadth of that area at Maseru border post?
Well, this is a long-term plan. Their role is certainly to try and streamline and centralize the chain of command. Now, I have learned that here at the border post, and as many border posts of South Africa with the neighboring countries in the Southern African Development Community region, SADC, that would include Mozambique, that would include, of course, Botswana, that would include Zimbabwe, Angola, and so forth. Lesotho, of course, that there are numerous security agencies operating. Now, this becomes problematic, for instance, when you have an arrest or suspects apprehended by the SNDF, for instance, and they then have to then hand over to the SAPS if there's no chain of command, if they can't reach their chain of command, that can cause unnecessary delays in terms of processing suspects or the questions of jurisdiction as to who can do what. So these new border, this new border agency, if I can put it that way, is certainly supposed to streamline all of that. It'll work in conjunction with all the others. However, it will then have one direct line of command, and it will have jurisdiction in terms of policing the immediate surroundings of the border, about 20 kilometers into towards Lesotho territory and vice versa, certainly especially in the grey area around the border called the no man's land.
Tumaole Mohlaoli coming to us from the Maseru border post. Appreciate your time this afternoon.